All right. Well, thank you all for being here. I'd like to thank Dr. Pruitt and Nathan Mattigan, our chair of the Alumni Association Board, for putting this event together. I think Nathan spearheaded the effort, and grateful for your effort to share with our community and the Wofford family the things going on here around diversity, equity, and inclusion. I would say a couple of things. One is that the process followed here and the conversations followed here at Wofford College reflect the kind of civility and dignity that should shape these conversations on college campuses. We have committed ourselves to the Chicago principles of open, free speech and academic freedom. We feel bound by them, and we will follow them. This forum is about the college's diversity efforts and the purpose of these efforts in preparing students for lives of leadership. We've had two guiding principles. I've thought about it in terms of two guiding principles around our justice, equity, diversity, and inclusion efforts, and in fact, around our educational efforts for students. Guiding principle number one is that no student who graduates from Wofford College should be surprised by what the world looks like. That is most important. Guiding principle number two is that every student who comes to Wofford College should have access to every opportunity we provide. Money should not be a barrier to access the opportunities we have. Those are two basic principles. And in my mind, they have guided us for years. And in my mind, they were reaffirmed in the JEDI process that took place on this campus several years ago. So I want to thank you all for being here. I have been told I do have to excuse myself for an off-campus event that we had committed to. But I want to thank the Alumni Association, and I want to thank Nathan Madigan for his leadership of the association and for bringing us all together for this conversation. Nathan?
Well, good evening. Thank you all for those who are here in Leonard Auditorium and those that are joining us online. I have to say it's my first live stream event, so I don't know where to look, but hopefully I look in the right place. So when I took on this role with the Alumni Association, one of my charges that I really felt deeply about was improving or increasing / maintaining communication between the college and the diverse group of alumni that are out there that are looking to re-engage, stay engaged, all around the care of the college. And that's where, working with Dr. Pruitt, there's been a lot of conversations regarding our initiatives around diversity. And so it made sense to get this forum together and the key members of the President's Cabinet to discuss how their departments and their teams are focused on those endeavors. And so the way this will work this evening is we'll have 5 of the cabinet members come up, give you an update on what's going on their teams. And please be thinking of questions during those presentations. If you have any burning thoughts, comments, hold on to those as we go through these presentations. And then at the end, we'll have time for questions. For those of you that are in person, we'll have you come step to the mic and ask your questions or comments. And then for those of you that are live streaming, please do use that YouTube chat function. And we'll be getting those questions, and we'll be sure to take those. I think Dr. Pruitt will be reading those out, and we'll field those as best we can. And then afterwards, if anybody wants to stick around for any more one-on-one conversation, more than willing to do that. I believe we'll have folks down at the AMS house for more talk. But I do just want to say this is not just the one and only opportunity we have for this. As we've heard throughout the JEDI initiative, this is an ongoing conversation that needs to continue. And so I just was hopeful that the Alumni Association kicked this off and kind of reinvigorate some of our alumni to get back into the care of the college. And with that, I have the privilege of introducing Brand Steele, our VP of Enrollment, to come give an update on enrollment.
Thank you, Nathan. I appreciate you including me in this forum. My role is to tell you a little bit more about enrollment, and I want to start with our goals. In 2021, after we received the Richardson gift, Dr. Sam had asked us to create or to update a strategic enrollment plan, starting in 2022, completing it in 2026. And the goals of that plan are to increase applications to 5,000 by 2026. We had 4,200 this past year. We're working to improve academic quality of entering students as measured by recalculated GPA and test scores. The recalculated GPA of the first year class was 3.76. Our goal in 2026 is 3.8. The mid 50% on SAT is 1220 to 1340 for students who enrolled. Our goal for 2026 is 1230 to 1350. We've met the ACT goal in the strategic enrollment plan. In addition to improving acceptance rate, academic quality, we want to improve diversity in 3 areas. First, we want to increase the number of underrepresented students, and our goal by 2026 is to have 25 to 27% of our students from underrepresented populations. The freshman class included 19% of students in that category. Overall, in the fall of this past year, we were at 20%. We're waiting for our census data for the students who have returned this year, but I think that number should be close to 20% again. This has been the most challenging goal that we faced. We've seen less progress here than in any of our other goals. We also are measuring diversity through geography. We want more students from outside of South Carolina. The goal is to get to 50%. The freshman class was at 46% from out of state. In addition, we want to recruit more international students. We set a goal of 3 to 4%. The freshman class included 2.75%, which was 14 international students. Finally, we want to increase diversity by recruiting students from different socioeconomic levels. And the primary goal here is to have 20% of our students who receive a Pell Grant, which is a federal grant for high-need students. The freshman class was at 17% this past year, which was a significant increase from the previous year where we were at 13%. Prior to COVID, we were closer to 17 or 18% pretty consistently. The FAFSA is changing this year, and there's lots of speculation that it's going to make it easier for students to qualify for a Pell Grant. We're excited about that. We think that that can help us reach our goal of 20% there. Just to tell you a little bit about underrepresented students, and what I mean by that term is non-white students in our community. Most institutions include, in addition to non-white students, international students in the underrepresented category. And so when we benchmark our enrollment, our underrepresented enrollment, we find that we, among our benchmarks, have a high number of Black students compared to many institutions like ours. Where we seem to fall short primarily are with Asian students and international students. Most of our benchmarks have more students in those categories than we do. Underrepresented students are more likely to come from South Carolina. The recalculated GPA that we compute for every student, and it's probably the most important factor that we consider in the admissions process, the recalculated GPA of underrepresented students is within 1/10 of a point of majority students when you look at students who are accepted each year. Underrepresented students usually have more significant financial need than majority students. Some of the initiatives that we've taken to try to increase diversity on campus, we participate in every college fair throughout the state of South Carolina. Again, because typically underrepresented students travel less distance to go to college, they're more likely to come from our local area. We're covering all of the college fairs in South Carolina to try to be represented in the places where we're likely to find good students. We purchase names every year from the College Board, who administers the SAT, from Encora, who administers the ACT, of underrepresented students in a wide range of areas, a wide geography of places. A couple of years ago, we started the GOLD Scholarship. GOLD was an acronym that stood for Growing Our Leadership Through Diversity. We're evaluating whether we're going to be able to continue to offer that scholarship. It was a $5,000 scholarship that could be stacked with other financial aid from the college, designated for underrepresented students who completed an application for that scholarship. We're not sure that we're going to be able to continue to offer that scholarship because of the Supreme Court decision in June. We're looking into the possibility of rebranding that scholarship for high-need students or first-generation students in the future. We've designated scholarships for students in the Citizen Scholars Program, which is a Spartanburg County college access program. It includes a large number of underrepresented students, and we've had good success enrolling students from this program in the past. For the past several years, we've identified high-need students who've been accepted, and we've offered to pay for their travel and hotel rooms if they'll come to the main event, one of the main event visitation programs that we offer in the spring for accepted students. We've also increased personalization in our communication plan. That's something that we're continually working on. Rebranded an alumni college planning event and turned it into a community-wide event a couple of years ago. We haven't had the response there that we've anticipated, and so we're reconsidering our opportunities there. But the biggest change in Wofford and our ability to improve diversity here on campus has been the Richardson gift, most of which, as you know, is devoted toward financial aid. That's created opportunity that we've never had before to provide additional institutional aid to students with high need. And we still think that the opportunity there is to have significant impact. We still think that our goals that we've set for 2026 are achievable. Again, the biggest hurdle being the underrepresented student number. Dr. Pruitt asked me to talk a little bit about the Supreme Court decision, and I think the outcome was what we expected based on the information that we had gathered. Talked to our legal counsel, talked to colleagues and friends at many other places. We really don't think it's going to have much impact on admissions decisions at Wofford. We're not at a level of selectivity that the colleges who were named in this decision, who were involved in the decision. And in terms of admissions decisions, we don't think it's going to alter the outcome of most of our decisions on applications. We think that what most institutions are going to do to continue to address diversity issues is focus on student need. And I'm already seeing lots of information about colleges that are focused on students' financial need as a substitute, so to speak, for race or gender. I'm attending a national conference in a couple of weeks. There'll be lots of conversations about how institutions are refocusing their efforts to identify students with need. As I mentioned before, underrepresented students, typically their need is significantly greater than majority students here at Wofford, and that's true nationally also. There's some positive changes taking place on campus that I think are worth mentioning, the work that folks are doing, and I'm sure Beth Wallace will talk more about this. We think that it will be very beneficial to us, the progress that we're making with MPHC organizations on campus, and we can add some of those. I had a meeting with the president of Wofford Women of Color recently, and she's interested in bringing local students to campus for an event that we're having, an open house that we're having in October. And so we're interested in partnering with students. We're interested in partnering with others on campus with ideas and any help that they might provide. We're working to recruit more underrepresented students. And I wish there were more students here at this event today to participate in our ambassadors program, which is a volunteer organization. More students who will apply to be bell ringers, which is an organization of student workers who assist us in recruiting all students to come to Wofford. And so with that, I'm going to turn it over to Joanne Brasington.
There's no way to discuss diversity and marketing without a bit of context. So thanks for your patience as I talk about how Wofford balances aspirational marketing and authentic marketing and why that matters. It's also important for you to know that in all marketing and messaging, and we just had this conversation recently with our friends in the Office of Philanthropy and Engagement, but in all decisions, we consider the college's mission and core values as our North Star. Every decision is intentional, and every decision is designed to promote enrollment, retention, and engagement. Every decision. We don't always get it right, but we sure do try hard. First, aspirational marketing, and that's sort of self-explanatory. Coca-Cola, for example, does this better than anyone else. The brand leads organizational change. It's creating a dream, creating a lifestyle. It's more polished. It's based on commonalities. Of course, we do much of this at Wofford. It's tried, it's true, and it's worked well for decades until COVID-19, until the death of George Floyd, until the election of 2020. And so aspirational marketing, this type of marketing that has worked for generations, has started to break down. And here's why. Here's the catch. The catch is that the success of aspirational marketing depends on your audience's self-esteem. Now, can we control our audience's self-esteem? We cannot. According to market research, if your team is winning the Super Bowl, you are much more likely to have a positive reaction to the commercials. Or on the opposite, if you're picked for president, the person you voted for doesn't win, when people feel that they've lost power, they become anxious. They turn to places or brands where they feel safe, where they have a relationship. They turn to Wofford maybe. They turn here for comfort. But if they don't think they fit anymore, if they say things that don't align with the Wofford they remember exactly, then they get mad. And there's nothing really we can do about that. Authentic marketing, on the other hand, is relevant and trending right now. Chipotle gets high marks for this. It's about gaining consumer trust. It's transparent. It's values-based, purpose-driven. Storytelling and sharing real-life experiences are the important things, much more than showing success. People want to know how the sausage is made. That was never the case with aspirational marketing, but people want to see how the sausage is made. And this is actually a really easy marketing for us at Wofford because we have so many great student, faculty, alumni stories to tell. The catch here, because there's always a catch, is that one wrong move, and it doesn't have to be by the college. It can be by an employee, a student, a graduate, a department. One slip off the brand wagon, and you could lose the trust that you've worked years to gain. Everyone is judged by every action. So if there is a perception that you're not walking the walk or talking the talk, that could manifest in the loss of applications, alumni giving, social media engagement. Okay, so how does all this impact diversity? Well, first, it impacts public opinion. And right now, diversity is a polarizing topic, partly because, as I've described above, both aspirational and authentic marketing have their place and can be incredibly effective. But perception depends on many factors that we can't control. So every 2 weeks, we send out the Conquer and Prevail e-newsletter. And without fail, my inbox lights up. I won't go into all the comments, but let's just say that some question the abundance of diversity that we show. As Brand shared with you earlier, about 20% of the student body is made up of students traditionally underrepresented in higher education. So following the goals of the strategic enrollment plan, we want to get to the number of 25 to 27 within a few years. So when we're working in marketing and communication, authentic marketing means that we're going to show between about 15 and 25%, give or take just a little bit. So the average is what we really are. Aspirationally, we're happy when we can show 30%. While some people are counting, though, again, as evidenced by comments for Conquer and Prevail, we're just telling stories in marketing and communications here at Wofford. We're telling stories of students thriving in their Wofford experience. So in addition to publishing Conquer and Prevail, Wofford Today comes out 4 times a year. We post to social media daily and include at least 2 stories, new stories every week on the website. We are as authentic as possible and as easy to show an aspirational place where student success is everybody's job. I'm proud of our college, and the team in marketing and communication is honored to do this work. Thanks for your time. I'm happy to answer questions if anyone has any. All right, then I'm supposed to turn it over to Tim. Provost Schmitz.
It's okay. Everybody, Dwayne asked me to talk a little bit about where we were in sort of our JEDI process, the JEDI recommendations, and so I'll do that. But first, I wanted to echo President Samhat that it's so important to try to make sure that all the aspects of a Wofford education are available to all our students. That's a sort of fundamental priority. We don't want students to come here and feel that they can't do things that other students have access to, or things that they can do and they're not able to. The other, it is really important to us and to me personally to make sure that our faculty and staff resemble both the student body and the world that our students are going out into. That's a connected world of diverse peoples. I don't want our college to feel like a bubble, something that's entirely insulated. So much of what we aim for is getting our students physically out into the world. I want them to study abroad, but I want them to see the world here, and we want them to challenge ideas and encounter ideas that they're going to find in the broader world, not somehow shelter them or insulate them from those ideas. And so that's essential to who we are. In the Provost's office, we've looked at the JEDI recommendations as a template, really, of sorts for our strategic planning. How do we meet what's been recommended? How much progress have we made? Dwayne has asked us about that as well. And so I looked through the highlights pertaining to academic affairs, and I just wanted to share a few updates with you. If you haven't perhaps reviewed the website recently, just to talk a little bit about a few of the recommendations in particular. First, number 6, which is to increase BIPOC and forms of diversity among faculty, staff, and administration. First, I would say that we've made steady progress in this regard. The faculty is becoming more diverse. We have paid attention in our hires in academic affairs to this very issue. Now, we are still a ways away from a faculty and staff that looks like the student body, that is something like 20% underrepresented groups, but we have made hires in the last few years that have made us more diverse. We've also, as of last year, joined the Consortium for Faculty Diversity, which gives us access to a pool of candidates for pre- and postdoctoral fellowships or visiting positions. We made an offer to one such candidate last year. We didn't know what the consortium looked like or what the candidate pool looked like until we were members of it. And so we are still trying to figure out the best way to make use of that candidate pool as opportunities come up. And we will explore that again this year once we know which VAPs we need to hire for the next year. So that's an exciting opportunity. Also, I would say that every time we run a search for a tenure track faculty member, a specially trained search advocate, is part of that process. The advocate leads the search committee through, and I'm sure many of you know this process very well, but through a process designed to focus on the position description and the qualifications for the position, all in the effort to reduce or eliminate personal biases in the search, in an effort to focus on the qualifications and the needs of the job. Hiring a diverse faculty and staff is important too, I would say, because the burden of what's commonly called out there invisible labor, done particularly by BIPOC, but also by LGBTQ faculty with regard to minoritized students. We know that students go and they seek out folks they feel, especially initially, who are more like themselves. We are also being much more intentional about new faculty orientation. I think that deserves some attention here. We are working harder to build community, create a sense of Wofford being a welcoming place for all new faculty and staff. And we've made huge progress. We have faculty leadership for that. Associate Provost Dan Mathewson has been a real pusher to make sure that we improve that. And we want them to feel like they belong here and that they're part of this community from the outset. Moving on to recommendation 7, restructure academic advising. We are making progress in this regard too. We hired a new director of academic advising, Dr. Cynthia Curry. This is the first time Wofford has had a full-time staff person in this important role. As she settles in, she will begin to evaluate our current system. But I think your start date was August 1st, and so, we'll give you some time to settle in. Dr. Curry is right here if you haven't met her yet. Should say hello. We also expect her to hire an assistant director within the next year or two. So year or so, I should say. So this is important work and it's just beginning. So recommendation 8, enhance the general education and major curricula with increased course content related to race, ethnicity, and legacies of colonialism. To this end, we are replacing our cultures and peoples course designation, which is somebody who taught some of those courses for years. I would say that the application of that term could be a little bit loose, with something much more deliberate, a diverse U.S. experiences and perspectives requirement, and a global experiences and perspectives designation. While these still represent a small portion of the college's required course content, we are being more intentional about what those requirements will contain going forward. That's a big improvement. Now, it is worth saying that the work in academic affairs in the provost's office when it comes to things like courses and curriculum is in partnership with the faculty. It's important to recognize that the faculty ultimately own the curriculum of the college, and so this work is in partnership with them. Recommendation number 11, revive the Wofford Gospel Choir, support and sustain it. This was actually a subject of a conversation just this week in my office. We are planning to hire an instructor from the community to work with the gospel choir to revive it and to make sure that it thrives once again. Recommendation 12, ensure that financial needs are met for laptops and course supplies. I'm sure that many of you are familiar with the work in Dr. Lawton's office in student success, but many of these needs are, of course, being met now, and I would actually refer you to his website, the Office of Student Success website for information about that. That is an increasingly well-resourced office for just these kinds of needs. Recommendation 14, create structures to ensure best practices for intercultural engagement and study away interim courses. Once those structures are in place, create equitable access to one study away, including study abroad interim for all students. That is important. A big portion of the discussion around interim last year had to do with the issue of intercultural competence in these study away interims. That's also true for our broader study abroad offerings. We want intercultural competence to be a part of that. Not every interim that leaves the country or is study away necessarily needs to contain this content in exactly the same way. I think of a scuba interim, for example, which is focused a little bit differently than something dealing with culture. Nonetheless, this is a part of the ongoing conversation about how we intend to improve interim. We've also increased need-based support for study away interims. We did that for this past interim, and we will continue to do that as the Richardson gift matures. Recommendation 16, create more equitable pathways to internships. We've been doing that as well through the aid of the Richardson gift. We increased funding to the Career Center for just this purpose this past year, and that work and that support will continue. Recommendation 17, create more equitable pathways to other student development and pre-career opportunities. Just a shout out really here to the Career Center. They have completely revamped their webpage. They are providing additional resources to students really at every turn, every year. And last year, they had a record number of interactions with Wofford students. And finally, recommendation 18, increase the amount and consistency of community engagement in the curriculum. I think that a lot of this work was beginning to really ramp up even before the JEDI process began as a result of the Romill grant, which was supposed to be 5 years, but we're in the 8th year of it. So see Ann out there, we're working toward concluding this. But a lot of work began and was inspired by that grant, and that is continuing. It is happening across the campus from the north side to the Arts Center, and really every time one turns around, there is more community-based learning, community engagement going on. There is a new designation on the course schedule that allows students to know, as of this fall, which courses have a community-based component. So that is something that is new. And again, this is really We have grant support through the Roma grant for some of this, but this is another initiative that really must be led by our faculty, and they are doing that. I think I'll stop there. I'll take any questions after, or and then Dean Wall.
Good evening, good afternoon. I'm not sure. It's 5:28, so good afternoon still. My name is Beth Wallace, and although I'm in my 32nd year here at Wofford, January I started in this new position as Dean of Students. And I want to first of all say that our staff is here, and I think that shows their commitment to these issues. We have many things going on in campus life and student development, but Dr. Pruitt has asked me to highlight a few of our diversity initiatives, and I'm pleased to do that. My friend and historian, Roberta Hurley, who's been here longer than I have, reminded me that in 2000, Tommy Woods and Lanisha Rouse, both students at the time, proposed a position in our area, then Student Affairs. That just shows the power of a student initiative. I love that this is where that began. Currently, that was known as the Director of Multicultural Affairs. Now, currently, Mr. Sept Flanagan holds the title of Director of Inclusive Engagement for the last 2 years. He has taken on many responsibilities. One is to be the advisor and the advocate of our diversity councils and our organizations, and he works with their leadership. He also works with Dr. Pruitt on programming and speakers, going back to the diversity councils, regular scheduled lunches with perhaps guest speakers, social events, philanthropic areas, as well as Seth will bring back to our staff any concerns they have. And we work together holistically to address those and to support our diversity councils and our organizations. One thing that I believe is fairly new, many of you may be familiar with AMS, the Association of Multicultural Students. That is being restructured, and I think will be a very powerful and impactful opportunity for students. It will compose of the leadership from the Diversity Council organization, as well as some campus union members who are on the committee of Diversity, Inclusion, and Anti-Racism Committee. All of these will be active members in AMS, and as we work with them, I'm really confident their leadership will make a real impact on our community. So we are looking forward to that. One other initiative that I wanted to highlight is along with Seth Flanagan and Carly Tate, our Director of Fraternity and Sorority Life, has revamped, re-energized our efforts for MPHC. Brian mentioned that. We're very excited. We think we are getting some traction on this area. We have 2 fraternities already in place. Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority is also interested in Alpha Kappa Alpha Incorporated Sorority. They tell me, I said, get it right, that's important, and I want to respect that title. The other one that has shown interest is the Sigma Rho Kappa Incorporated Sorority. They have expressed through an interest letter to us, and we're hoping that they will be recruiting in spring of 2024. The one important thing that I want to highlight right now is that Seth and Carly came together and have put together a proposal that I have pushed up to other vice presidents on campus, a proposal to start a fund for scholarship opportunity. Is quite expensive for our students to join these organizations initially, several $1,000s up front. And I don't know about you, but as a college student, that would not have been doable for me. And so we're really working with our Office of Philanthropy Engagement to try to get some scholarship opportunities for these students to join organizations when the time comes. So we're very excited about that initiative. Our staff in campus life and student development, we're very excited to work with all of our students. We have new initiatives going on, programming, opportunities outside the classroom for our student success and growth. And I believe that this is going to be a good year for our students to really grow and thrive on our campus. I'll be glad to take questions at the end.
Okay, I am the last of the regularly scheduled speakers. For those of you who do not know me, my name is Dwayne Pruitt, and I'm the college's Chief Equity Officer and Vice President for Community Initiatives. And so the question I'm often asked is, what exactly do you do? What is an office, what is a Chief Equity Officer? And so I'd like to take this opportunity to talk about what our office is, what it does, and more importantly, what we are anticipating doing as we continue to advance the college's equity initiatives. This office was created in 2021 as the Office of Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion. We have renamed the Office of Civil Rights, the Office for Civil Rights, Compliance, and Community Initiatives. The name change does not reflect a change in our mission. Rather, it reflects what we are doing and how we are envisioning the work of equity, diversity, and inclusion on this campus. Dr. Sam had and Dr. Schmitz have emphasized the fact that for us, equity is not what some people fear. We are not interested in equality of outcomes. We are interested in equality of access and equality of opportunity. So our equity work has focused on guaranteeing that any member of our community is free from discriminatory harassment or any form of unlawful behavior. Hence the emphasis on civil rights. Our office is responsible for the guaranteeing the college's compliance with Title VI, which prevents racial and ethnic discrimination, Title VII, which prevents workplace discrimination and harassment, and Title IX, which prevents gender-based discrimination and protects people against sexually based or gender identity-based misconduct and violence. So at the core of our mission is guaranteeing that every person who is a student, faculty member, or staff member at Wofford College is in an environment that is free from harassment and that allows that person to thrive within the context of his or her job on our campus. In terms of diversity, we are interested as an office in supporting a number of programs and opportunities that will bring to the campus a greater range of speakers, a greater range of voices, and a greater range of opportunity. If you look at the work of the national diversity organizations, we in South Carolina tend to think of race as a racial binary, given our history. We talk about Black people and white people. Categories of diversity, as Brand underscored, cross over a number of lines of socioeconomics, religion, politics, ability, and we want to build programming that reflects the broadest possible range of human diversities and human experiences. We do this through our programmatic initiatives. We do this through the types of speakers that we bring. And we also do this through our efforts to partner with students. We partner with diversity council organizations. We partner with faculty members on special projects. So we are very much committed to trying to build the type of academic community that you read about in books, where people can engage in ideas with the understanding that we are all trying to grow as human beings and that we are not defined by some petty ideology of trying to mind-control people. One of the things that is frustrating in a job like this is the number of people who assert that inclusivity or diversity or equity equals brainwashing. My friend Marion does diversity work at the University of Louisville, and she also says that what you have to do in a context like this is you must own your truth. You have to establish who you are and what your values are. I am a European historian by training. I study 18th century France. I study the Enlightenment and the French Revolution. So if anyone believes that my mission in life is to destroy the Western canon, I've got 3 degrees hanging in my office that I shouldn't have earned. It is very important for me, for anyone listening to this or anyone in this room, to understand that I am committed to the study of ideas and to engaging in rational discourse. Our office will be responsible this year for inviting a number of speakers to campus, some of whom will be controversial. This is by design. I am owning my truth right here and right now. The important thing for this office to do is to facilitate conversation, to facilitate engagement with the liberal arts in the best tradition of the liberal arts. So our commitment to inclusivity, to community initiatives is just that. We want to build an academic community. We want for the person to work at Wofford, who study here, to leave here having been made better. And as I said to Ron Robinson, I will close by saying this. If in our engagement with a variety of human experiences, for 1 second, you are able to stop and think, this person is different from me, and I understood for a brief moment in time how that person lives in the world, then we have done our job. And that's why we are here. And that is the mission that we will continue to pursue as the Office of Civil Rights Compliance and Community Initiatives. With that, we are finished with our formal presentations. If anyone in the room has questions, we have a microphone down there. We will turn that on in just a moment. And if there are questions online, please send those to the chat function, and we will be happy to answer those. Well, don't all talk at once. No questions? We've stunned you all into silence?
I'll ask a question.
We have a question from the floor. Thank you.
So I had the pleasure of attending Wofford with Nathan, and so he told me if I asked him a question, he'd buy me a drink after this. So bribery still does work. No, for Brand, I mean, obviously the Supreme Court decision got a lot of attention. And, you know, I mean, there's a lot of different sides of why it got voted the way it got voted, or was it beneficial or not. But the reality is the decision was made. And so I appreciate your comments on how it may or may not change the way we do admissions. And I guess from your perspective, does looking at it from a need-based standpoint, does that help us accomplish, you know, sort of the end goal of how we want the Wofford experience to be? I mean, in some ways, you know, we talk a lot about race and backgrounds and where you came from, et cetera, but a lot of times your life experience sometimes, in my opinion, and I grew up in Union, South Carolina, so largely a diverse community, from a socioeconomic standpoint, that drove a lot more of the differences in experiences than gender, race, et cetera. And so I guess I'm just curious, again, how you think that impacts the college going forward, whether we hit this number or not of a percentage, but just the overall experience and the type of student we have.
Thank you for the question, Michael. I think that's a good question. And I think that's a question that lots of colleges are grappling with and will be, you know, for years to come. Also, we have more resources now to address need than ever before. As I mentioned, underrepresented students typically have greater need, and the margin is pretty significant for students who are accepted at Wofford. But there are certainly lots of majority students who have need also. And so there's plenty of, I think, legitimate concern among colleges that they're not going to be able to continue to enroll students without the benefit of affirmative action, underrepresented students, as they were before. One of the areas where I think we've been more diverse than some of our benchmarks is through socioeconomic status. We've received rankings from New York Times in the past that suggest that we're more diverse from a socioeconomic standpoint than many of our benchmarks. That's not something that you can identify just by looking at a classroom of students who might be Pell eligible or whose parents may earn, you know, an adjusted gross income of less than $50,000 a year. And so I think affirmative action will certainly present challenges. I've wondered, though, if it also might present some opportunity to Wofford. I'm looking forward to bouncing this idea off some colleagues at this conference that I'm going to attend. So if highly selective institutions are not going to be allowed to use affirmative action, we've lost some outstanding underrepresented students in the last several years to highly selective places. Duke, Vanderbilt, Emory, just to name a few. Those places are more selective than Wofford. And so I've wondered if there may be opportunity for Wofford, given this new situation, to enroll more underrepresented students. I think most institutions feel like the challenge is going to be greater. But we'll see. The change in the FAFSA should make it more likely that we hit our goal for Pell eligible students. But that's only one segment. That doesn't cover the full scope of socioeconomic stratification. Pell would be a group of high need students, but that's a goal that we think we can hit by 2026. Thank you for that question. Yes, sir.
Just speak on the floor.
You'll be better heard from the microphone.
I'm Johnny Linton, class of 1970. My 3 children graduated from Wofford, all with very distinct personalities and interests, and all with a very happy experience and lifetime friendships from Wofford. I've been trying to be involved a little bit more in some college affairs. And just as President Sam had distilled this initiative into 2 goals, the question I ask myself is, what can the alumni do that enhances the value of a Wofford diploma? Obviously, that also includes, prior to getting the Wofford diploma, what can the alumni do by including students in alumni activities or in presentations here on campus? And I think it would be very valuable if the administrative group suggested ideas, concrete ideas of what the Wofford alumni could do. For example, Brent, as far as particularly Black students, there's a very strong South Carolina Bar Black Lawyers Committee. In Charleston, where I live, you've got Shawan, of course, on the board, who's a fantastic speaker. Darren Goss is a graduate of Wofford. He's president of the Coastal Community Foundation that has about $500 million. Many of those funds are directed towards scholarships. The Senator Clementi Pinckney Scholars is part of that program. Getting in front of those people locally, so that it seems to me to be a very easy way to perhaps help achieve your goals. But I'm sure there are many different opportunities, and y'all may be doing that. You know, it's just something I don't know about. Thank you.
Thank you for your question. One thing that we are doing is we have elected new leadership for the Black Alumni Association, and part of what we want to do with the new leadership, both of whom will be in the Spartanburg area, is figure out ways that we actually can be more proactive. Because at this point, that organization is largely active only during homecoming. But with local leadership, we hope to have some programming and have more things that happen on campus, so that we engage with some of our professional, some members of our community that way. Are there any other examples from the floor for ways we can engage? Got a question? Okay, come on up.
It's a good opportunity to plug in a way. So with the Alumni Association, we got everybody together at the start of this year with the support of Lindsay and Calhoun to speak to those individuals that raised their hand and want to be part of the group about what they thought would be important for alumni to be involved within college. And 2 things out of the survey really came to the forefront. And one is centered around enrollment, and the other is around is getting more career services engagement with the alumni. So on the enrollment front, we're trying to work with the enrollment team, and I think we're getting close to that post-acceptance, getting alumni groups in these cities where there's a large density of Wofford alums together, and to get names of students who have been accepted and to meet with them, to give them a taste of the college early and often, so that it's easier for them to make the decision to go. And as we have more alums that are engaged around that, we'll have a more diverse group of alums, and thus hopefully a more diverse group of students choosing to attend Wofford. The second thing around career services is we just need more alumni engaged on that front, because the real thing that's lacking on that end for the students at Wofford, in my opinion, is access. You don't need to be part of an organization in order to do that. You just need to be able and willing to open up and give your experience as well as your time. And when we have more alumni engaged in that, we'll have more diverse sets of fields of study, careers, and hopefully that will reach out to more people in the community. And so those are the two things, and that's off the cuff, but I just know that is what the Alumni Association is kind of forming around. And with the help of Lindsay, we're going to be trying to codify what that looks like for our operations moving forward. I'd love to answer more questions about that at any time. Thank you.
We have another question from online. I can read it to you. The question for Brand is, how are you going to handle the SCOTUS allowed essays on life experiences of applicants with the onset of AI writing the essay?
Oh, I thought those were two. I read that question. I thought there were two separate questions. We practice holistic admission and have as long as I've been here. And so when we read an application, there are objective measures that we're looking at, and then there are subjective measures that we consider in the process as well. And so the subjects that students choose to write about in an essay will be a factor in the process. The things that they choose to do outside of their academic work is a factor in the process as far as admission and scholarship as well. And so we haven't changed our essay prompts. We have some short essay questions and then a 300 to 500 word essay. We haven't changed that. We're a member of the Common Application, and we're Common App exclusive, and we don't have quite as much flexibility as institutions who use their own application. And so I don't know exactly what we might find. I suspect that we'll have more students who will talk about how race has impacted them through the process. There'll be more essays like that. The admissions staff has been studying essays written through ChatGPT and other AI sources to try to identify when that might be used, how students might be using that. But we haven't started evaluating applications for fall of 24 yet. And so I think that's going to be interesting to see. I certainly expect we'll come across some that we suspect are generated with some help from artificial intelligence, but we're trying to educate our staff as best we can. But there are limits in our ability to, well, and there were limits before to determine whether, little Johnny wrote his essay or whether his mother did. That was a problem before now, and so. I don't think that's going to change and all that. We certainly assume in the large majority of cases that the information that students are providing is legitimate and is their own work.
One question that was asked prior to this event that I would like to address. We've had a question about homecoming, and those persons who looked at the registration and have seen that events sponsored by the Black Alumni Association don't have additional charges associated with them. I want to make sure that everyone who has seen those and raised questions about whether the college is funding those events are funded by the Black Alumni Association. They do not have charges associated with them because the Alumni Association is underwriting them to encourage participation. Its mission is to engage the African-American alumni with the college, and many of those alumni, for a variety of reasons, have not retained the same level of contact with the campus, and so our goal is to encourage people to attend. So those are not being funded by the college. Those are funded by monies provided by generous alumni to the Black Alumni Association. Oh, this is a question for me. Thank you for your comments on Wofford being committed to the study of ideas and hosting speakers. Are there any ideas that you would like presented that you haven't found the right person? That's an interesting question. Some of the things that I am personally interested in engaging with are things like neurodivergence. We want to talk about people who experience life differently. I would like for us to do more with Spartanburg's Hispanic and Asian communities, and I have not found those contacts yet. And so I have some meetings scheduled with some of our faculty and staff members who are working with those communities. So I think we will find the right persons for that. It's just a matter of doing this intentionally. And I left Spartanburg in 1995 to go to graduate school. I came back in 2021. The community has changed significantly, but we are definitely working on trying to find ways to look at a number of categories of difference, particularly, again, neurodivergence. I would like to do more with differences of religion and politics, particularly in a political season. I think it's important for us to start looking at why people believe what they believe and trying not to demonize people, that they simply may experience life differently and arrive at different political conclusions. But for us, it's important, again, that we interrogate what people believe and sort of ask people to think about those ideas critically. Thank you for your question. Is that the last question? Well, then I will turn the floor over to Nathan.
Well, again, thank you for everybody who came out this evening and for those who tuned in on the live stream. A quick reminder, homecoming is November 3rd and 4th. We hope to see a bunch of alumni come back to the college and re-engage. A lot of exciting events planned for that weekend. Again, thank you, Dr. Pruitt, for putting this together and for all the presenters this evening on now we can say evening, I believe. Again, this is the start. There's been many conversations, and we hope to continue those. And if there's anything that the Alumni Association can be doing to support this initiative, please do not hesitate to reach out to me, and we will make it happen. So again, thank you to all.
Thank you.